me begin today by asking a question. When is questioning process not okay? My name is Brian Venton and welcome to another My Town Media opinion piece. This week I was blocked on a mainstream media Facebook page. Essentially I raised a question about the appointment process of the new Townsville CEO. I also suggested there was a general lack of investigative journalism by mainstream media in respect to this topic and other important local topics. So I decided to do what mainstream media seems reluctant to do and address my questions directly to a Townsville councillor and seek an opinion. These are my questions with some slight editing to make the video flow. I said, as you are a local councillor in Townsville, I'm interested in knowing where council is at in respect to the appointment of the new CEO. I have some questions and hopefully you can answer them for me. I said, I understand that applications for recruiting a new CEO by MacArthur Recruitment were to close by mid-June. However, the process, as I understand it, was suspended. My question is, who initiated and authorised the suspension? Were you, as a councillor, in any way involved in those decisions? Was there any minuted meeting where that suspension was authorised? My inquiry continued as follows. The suspension, as I understand it, was in place temporarily. At some point, though, it appears the process was rebooted just for a few weeks, which possibly made room for the acting CEO, Mr. McCabe, to apply for the position sometime during the month of July. Now, that was roughly a month after the initial suspension of the recruitment process. So I asked the councillor, obviously, at some point, the application process must have been reopened. Who was it that authorised the recruitment process to be reopened? I then asked the question mainstream media seems reluctant to ask. Was the initial suspension of the recruitment process and the subsequent reopening of that process just for a few weeks intended to provide a pathway for Mr. McCabe to apply for the CEO position? In my view, that question has never been answered by council. I continued, though, as follows. Interestingly, from my memory, the mayor was locked out of the council precinct by actions of Mr. McCabe during most of this process. Again, my inquiry continued. I'm also very concerned that according to a mainstream media journalist on the 28th of August, Mr. McCabe indicated that being a candidate for the position was not something he had considered. Now, it would appear that that statement was clearly an untruth. I suggested to the councillor that there was a lot of questions that, in my view, needed answering. I continued, though, with some more questions. As a councillor, what would your answer be to these questions? Do you think Mr. McCabe is conflicted in any way? What role, if any, has he played in the recruitment timeline? Was he just acting at the behest of councillors, or was he himself a player in decisions which may have afforded him a benefit? I suggested to the councillor that these are deeply concerning issues and I would love to know your thoughts. So how did the councillor reply? As you might expect, it was a very muted response. In essence, the councillor said these were confidential matters and it would be inappropriate to comment. So, returning to my opening question, I ask you, when is questioning the process not okay? Do you think my questions are deserving of an answer? Should we, as electors, be demanding more transparency by our councillors in respect to this process? After all, that's what they argued they wanted to do from the get-go. But reflect for a moment on this important question. Is it appropriate that process be allowed to hide behind a veil of confidentiality when ratepayers are likely to be impacted? What do you think? It's now common knowledge that Mr. McCabe is in fact a candidate for the CEO position. But what really bothers me is whether a lot of other good candidates may have removed themselves from the recruitment process because of a perception the process may have been corrupted or tainted at a local level to achieve a particular outcome. If you've been following council proceedings in recent months, our councillors have been progressively removing the mayor's powers, and this has occurred mostly while Mr McCabe has been the acting CEO. Do you think that is just a mere coincidence? If the process of getting a CEO has somehow been corrupted, perhaps we need to start the process of selecting a CEO from scratch again, but this time how the mayor initially intended it to be, with just one councillor selected by peers, an independent person from the MacArthur recruitment, plus the mayor himself. However, it appears there's a cabal of councillors who are hell-bent on opposing the mayor at every turn. On the upside though, in spite of all the unfriendliness shown towards the mayor within the chamber, and all the mainstream media naysayers and the posturing by the Premier, the mayor is still getting a heck of a lot of things done, and that should be recognised and applauded. I noticed that there is another closed confidential session scheduled for the next ordinary meeting on the 2nd of October. That may well be matters relating to the appointment of the CEO. If that is the case, it would be good to get some answers to the above questions before that meeting. Tell me what you think. Perhaps you could send this video to your local councillor for an opinion. I just hope our councillors have not become conflicted in their own decision-making during this process. Now, these comments and my commentary are an honest expression of my own opinions. The timeline of events outlined in this video are, to the best of my knowledge, accurate. Thanks for watching, and remember, the things that appear are not always as they seem. Bye.